Welcome to another Star Citizen Addicts Anonymous State of the Game. This is my weekly vlog. It's kind of a combination of video and blog. I'm sure you all know that. It has to do with all things Star Citizen. When I say all things, I mean the things that I'm thinking of and where the game's going and my thoughts, feelings, opinions. You'll get the idea when you hear this show. This is actually my 25th episode of State of the Game. But I'm not going to be numbering them anymore. They're just going to be put into the Star Citizen feed on my YouTube channel. The reasoning for this is simple. I've been separating things by opinion pieces, news pieces, and interview pieces, and I think that it's been putting some people off. So by putting everything into one area where you can see it, I think it's going to make it a lot easier for you to get the Star Citizen content that you want. So let's move on with this week's show. Saturday was the big event for Cloud Imperium Games over in Boston at PAX East. They got a chance to demo a couple of things. Things I did not get to see at this point. What I did get to do, however, was to play the PTU of version 1.1, which is about as buggy as a summer's day in a picnic while rolling around on the grass covered in honey. Yeah, it is pretty much not ready for prime time, but it is not supposed to be. Let's face it. We're talking about a beta of a pre-alpha game, right? So we're trying to find the bugs in this mess. But one of my most exciting moments was being able to jump into the cockpit of my Gladius, which you see me here doing. And just like every other ship when it's first released, it has its issues. And that's what today's show is going to be about. It's going to be about our interaction and how we help Cloud Imperium Games, or whatever game company we happen to be supporting, get through the testing process. So when I jumped into the Gladius, I jumped in with the knowledge of the lore. Now, many of you are not subscribers, so you don't get to read those wonderful stories for many months that appear in the jump point. And there was one story in particular that talked about this light fighter squadron that fought to the very last man, protecting the downed crew of a crashed, I think it was a crashed escort carrier, or maybe it was a carrier, I'm not sure. But how these Gladiuses fended off wave after wave of pirate attacks. Well, that is not going to be what happens with the Gladius that they gave us in the PTU. It's not as fast as I thought it was going to be. The damage model is incredible, and we will talk about that on this week's SCAA. But it definitely doesn't have the punch. Now, as far as the punch goes, I have to keep reminding myself that this is not the Gladius that the UE Navy Marine Corps would fly. It may be the space frame, but it's definitely not the weapon systems that they'd have. So to civilianize this spacecraft, they've given us CF-007s and what they're calling a Scorpion in the nose. And I'll tell you this, it's about as underarmed as a Girl Scout going into a fight with a box of tagalongs. Sorry, I just bought a lot of Girl Scout cookies, so I'm using that as my analogy this week. But it's not going to make me lose heart. It's not going to make me lose any kind of CIG is not going to lose credibility with me. And the main reason is this. Let's go back a couple of weeks ago. A couple of weeks ago, we got the art for the RSI Orion mining platform. And many people wanted to buy it, and they bought it. And there was a lot of feedback about the placement of the cockpit area. And lo and behold, before the end of the week, CIG had talked to the artist in charge of designing the RSI Orion and had moved the cockpit from the right side, which I believe is the starboard side, I think, over onto the top of the ship. That way you would have both left and right clearance as you were coming in. Well, as you were flying it, I should say. And that was a good thing, right? Because they used the feedback from the community before the game even went live. So there's already a lot of threads talking about the Gladius being underpowered, meaning not enough speed. It should be faster than 220 meters a second, which is, I think, what its speed is now. And I'm just saying meters a second because it's just listed as 220 at this point. It should have more punch than it does. But this isn't even a release of the ship. This is a beta of the ship. And people are already talking about dumping this ship and moving on. And this isn't the way that we get our voices heard when we're trying to interact with a company like Cloud Imperium Games, or even a company like Ubisoft, which I wouldn't want to talk to myself at this point. But it is a way to make them feel put off and like, why should we even try, right? So the right way would be to go to the forums, find the area for the PTU comments, and to write in, hey, I've been flying the Gladius and it feels a little slow. I feel that the ship should have a little bit more speed. Let's say instead of 220, that it will top out at 250 or 270. That would be a great comment to make. Another piece, people were talking about not being able to hit the broadside of a barn. Well, I found the ship a little bit, well, not over maneuverable. It's highly maneuverable. It is an amazing ship to fly, that much I could tell you. And the only reason that it was hard to hit anything is that when you do hit things like here, it doesn't do any damage with the CF007s. And the main issue there was that they did not give us the opportunity or a way to replace the base weaponry, which is what the base weaponry should be when you buy a ship like this. Well, they didn't give us a way to replace the base weaponry with anything else. And that is something that should be changed. And that's something that probably we could have handled in a different way. Hey, I took the Gladius out today. The CF007s, while being a good starter weapon, didn't seem to have the punch. Tried to alter the weapon's loadout, didn't work. That would be a great way to put that in there. So my impressions of this ship are going to be different than the people that have been the naysayers. For the first time flying it, I was flying with Dr. Jeffrey, who is he's my research editor, and he collects all the questions from y'all for 5 for Ben Lesnick, and now the new 5 for the Lore Master. And I was ripping apart the ship with him in our Skype chat the other day as I was flying it. Truth of the matter was, I was actually loving the flight model of the ship. To me, the Gladius is everything that I thought it was going to be. And I think it could be a lot more. So what I will be doing is making some comments inside of the developers forum for the PTU and talking about my 2 days flying the Gladius and what I think should happen with that ship over time. Now, for those of you that haven't played the PTU, there will be many changes before it actually goes live. A lot of the bugs that we've seen, a lot of the issues that we've had should be corrected by then. And that's something that I can't wait to see. So this wasn't meant to be a lecture. It was meant to be, I was thinking about how we're making the game right now and where we're at. And I look at the player test universe, the PTU, and I think of other games like EVE Online when they put things up on their test universe, or oh god, there's so many others. I can't even remember the other ones. I play Diablo 3, and they have a test universe up right now with a whole new build of the game that's going to be going out soon. And when I'm thinking about those are for finished games. So when you're going into the PTU, you expect things to be polished, to be beta tests, right? But at this particular point in time, Cloud Imperium Games are doing everything they could do to get this game out for us. So when we're looking at a PTU in this game, it's more or less looking at us as being the people that are supporting the game and trying to get our feedback on what they've presented to us. It's not going to be polished. It's not going to be done. It's still going to be a beta of an alpha. And that's one thing I want everyone to remember when they're looking at this game. Even if you don't take part in the PTU, you're flying an alpha. And it's going to be some time before we get polish on the game. Polish in the form of better load times, better graphics, better optimized code, and all parts of the game working at the same time. Until then, we have signed on as testers. We have signed on as alpha testers. And we should step up and we should take the opportunity to look at Cloud Imperium games and give them what they're asking us for, which is none other than the feedback to help them make the game get better. All right, there's a lot more that went into this patch. We had the upgraded damage models. We have over there to the right the sim pod, which replaces the Arena Commander screen that would pop up every time you jumped into one of the compatible ships. You had upgrades to weaponry, you have upgrades to ships, flyable ships, and of course we will have the Gladius and the hangar. And it paves the way for the FPS module, which we will talk about in SCAA. So where do I feel like the game is going at this point? Well, I think the game is moving ahead rather quickly. And I think it's moving ahead in the right direction. Now, I think that they missed a huge opportunity with the live stream this weekend. I understand about bandwidth and about Overwatch and Blizzard taking most of it at that particular event, but other people did indeed get a live stream out. I'm kind of disappointed I wasn't able to watch it at this point. And as soon as State of the Game is done, I will be putting all of my time into watching the live stream, reading all of the material that came out of it, and talking to Ben and whoever I can get a hold of to see if I can get some information on the things I talked about so I can present it in Star Citizen Addicts Anonymous this week. I'm actually doing a little bit more than this, though. I want to move on to the next subject, which is touching on last week's multiplayer stuff. So for this, I'm just going to stop real quick and then get back into the game. So I just spent some time talking about the game as an alpha test and about what our responsibility is in it to test the game and to make sure we give feedback. Well, I'm going to give you all some feedback right now. I had the best time in this game ever last night, in the second week in a row that myself and other members of the Enablers, the official, I guess you could call it the official organization of the Star Citizen Addicts Anonymous community, we got together at midnight GMT last night and played for quite a long time. This is the last little bit of that, which was around 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I was playing with Klugen, who was in Germany. It was early morning for him there. And we were the last two left on. And we were, at this point in, I guess it was Wave 9. And this is the first time I've ever completed Wave 18. And it's also the best time I've ever had in the game. And one thing I could tell you is I haven't given this game a shot because I get bored with it very easily right now because I really am not this single player gauntlet type game player. I just don't like it. I like the interaction you have with live human beings, or I love a very immersive and amazingly well-written storyline that you take part in a game, like Star Citizen, is going to be, like Squadron 42. But Arena Commander has never really grabbed me, and it's because I wasn't latching on to the real elements of it, because I was not doing my job as a tester, which was to test the game in what it was meant to be, which is an arena-style multiplayer game that you can play with friends or just by yourself against other people. Playing this game with friends is the best thing I've done in a game in a long time. It is intense, it is amazing, and it's not without its bugs. Many times when we were playing, and I believe it was because of pings, because we were playing with people from Germany to Vancouver.
I killed already
But
too.
we did drop a couple of times. Not drop the game itself, I mean drop signal with each other, but the game just stopped working and put us back to the hangar. But when we were playing, regardless of it dropping us back to the hangar, every one of us was having a good time. And that's a good thing for me, because Chris was looking exactly for that. He was looking for that experience, which was that you could jump in your starfighter, go out, have a great time with your people, with your friends, with your
Yep.
co-members, I guess you call them, and then have something to talk about. And that's something that Chris has always talked about, and I hear Ben talking about and other people there at Cloud Imperium Games. So if you're just playing the game alone, I'm going to open this up to you all. Every Sunday night, the Enablers are going to have some kind of an event. And that event is going to be going off sometime around midnight GMT. And when that event happens, all you need to do is make sure that you are tuned to, and I got to think of this. I got it. There is a Facebook link down in the bottom of the show notes every single week. When that's happening, I will give a date and time and a way to join us. And that will be inside of our Facebook from now on. And I'm going to tell you this. If you're not playing this game multiplayer, you need to go find somebody to play with. And if you can't, you're more than welcome to join us weekly on Sunday nights. I know I've said that a couple of times, but I really want you to experience that intense fun that we had, even when we were fighting against each other in Capture the Core for the 1 or 2 times that we played that. We had a rip-roaring time, even though most of us had no clue what was going on half the time. It was still amazing fun. The game is going to start picking up steam now. The snowball is getting bigger and moving faster downhill. So we have to ready ourselves, because they're going to be throwing a lot more assets, a lot more modules, and expecting a lot more feedback from us in the future. So let's just call this episode the episode for the promotion of feedback for the game. Alright guys, I know that I babble sometimes and I don't want to keep talking your ear off. I think that I have pretty much talked myself out tonight. I'm very excited about 1.1 coming, and I can't wait to start digging deep into the presentation. I guess it was the new damage system document that they released, and eventually the new weapons mount system that they're going to release. And I'm sure there's a lot more stuff that I have to look at, so this week's show might be a little bit busy. Well, let's say, not just busy, this week's show might be a little bit long. And because of that, I think I'm going to end it right here. Folks, thank you so much for watching and taking part in the Star Citizen AA community. Remember, you are the biggest part of this community, and your likes help the show get noticed by more and more people, which only makes it better for you. If you like the show, make sure you click the thumbs up button below. And with that said, thank you all very much. You all be safe out there, and I'll talk to you soon.